On the 5th of June 2026, Forbes published two articles on the same day. The first said Cristiano Ronaldo was a billionaire. The second said Lionel Messi was a billionaire. They were both correct. For the first time in the history of the most popular sport on Earth, two players held 10-figure fortunes at the same moment. But the two men did not arrive at the same place by the same road. They arrived from opposite directions, and the direction matters far more than the destination, because only one of those roads keeps paying after the final whistle. The World Cup has returned to North America, and for both of these men, this is almost certainly the last one.
We shared this stage 15 years, me and him. I don't know if it's ever happened in football. The same two guys.
Ronaldo and Messi are the first players ever to reach a sixth World Cup. The tournament has given the rivalry a stage for its financial finale. But the contest that will actually decide which of them built the more durable fortune was settled years ago, in two contracts that could not have been more different. In the summer of 2023, both men were available at the same time. Each could sign with anyone. One chose the largest salary the sport had ever paid. The other turned down an even larger offer and asked for something almost no athlete had ever secured. One optimised for income, the other optimised for ownership. Understand why that distinction matters, and you understand how wealth at this scale is actually built. This is Icon Capital. We don't cover celebrity drama, we cover the financial architecture beneath it. The contracts, the equity stakes, the ownership structures that determine which fortunes compound and which ones end when the work ends.
Of course, we're still improving, but I believe that in this moment we are in top 5 already.
Every video on this channel runs the actual numbers against verified sources with one question underneath it all. What would it take to build durable wealth at this scale? And what is this person actually doing? Most coverage of these two men is about goals, trophies, and who you would rather have on your team. We are not covering that. The financial architecture is the real story, and it is more interesting than the scoreline. Chapter 1. The same day. Start with what Forbes actually published, because the numbers are not what most people assume. According to Forbes in June 2026, Cristiano Ronaldo's net worth sits at an estimated $1.2 billion, with Bloomberg's Billionaires Index placing him as high as $1.4 billion, depending on how his private business assets are valued. Lionel Messi, by Forbes' estimate, crossed the line at roughly $1 billion to $1.1 billion. So the first surprise is simple. By today's snapshot, Ronaldo is the richer man. The gap is real, even if it is narrower than it has ever been.
Football is like that. You have sometimes good moments, bad moments, but for me the most important thing is...
That should stop the standard story in its tracks. If Ronaldo is worth more, where is the argument? The argument is not about who has more today. The argument is about what each fortune is made of and what each fortune will do over the next 20 years. Because by the ownership architecture framework we apply across every breakdown on this channel, the size of a fortune tells you very little. The structure of it tells you everything. Ronaldo's billion was built almost entirely on salary. Messi's billion was built mostly on salary too.
De cómo piensan y bueno, el hecho que nos llevemos fuera de la cancha bien también creo que.
But Messi did one thing inside his final contract that Ronaldo did not. He converted part of his compensation into ownership. And that single decision is the reason this comparison is worth 18 minutes of your time. Chapter 2. The Salary Machine. Ronaldo built the most powerful income machine in the history of team sport. There is no exaggeration in that sentence. According to Bloomberg, Ronaldo became football's first billionaire in late 2025, pushed over the threshold by his move to Al Nassr in the Saudi Pro League. His on-field salary there has been reported at around $235 million a year, and it is paid in a jurisdiction with no personal income tax.
The top 5 leagues in the world, but they need time, they need players, they need infrastructures, but I believe that this country have...
That last detail is the hidden multiplier. In England or Spain, a salary that size would have been roughly halved by the time it reached him. In Saudi Arabia, he keeps it. According to Forbes, his projected total earnings for 2026, on and off the pitch, are around $300 million, which makes him the highest paid athlete on the planet. Around that salary sits a genuine operating business. The CR7 brand spans hotels, fashion, fragrance and fitness, and it is supported by a lifetime endorsement agreement with Nike that has been reported for years as one of the largest in the industry. According to Bloomberg's reporting on his career, his accumulated wages across Manchester United, Real Madrid, Juventus and Al Nassr have exceeded $550 million. This is a monument to 2 decades of elite earning, carefully accumulated and invested. But look closely at the engine, because the engine is the whole point.
When I play in Sporting Professional, it's a dream for me. I say, yeah, it's fantastic to play in the first team.
Almost every dollar in Ronaldo's fortune is a return on Cristiano Ronaldo personally performing or personally endorsing. The salary is enormous, but it is capped. It is paid for a defined term for defined work. The brand is real, but the brand is still built on the residual value of the man. This is income at a scale almost no one will ever witness. It is still, structurally, income, and income has an expiry date that ownership does not. That distinction is about to matter more than any number on the list. Chapter 3. The equity option. Messi went a different way, and the difference is not the amount, it is the kind. When Messi became available in 2023, the reporting at the time, including coverage of offers from the Saudi Pro League, suggested he could have commanded more than Ronaldo. According to multiple accounts, a Saudi side offered him a package reported in excess of $500 million a year. He turned it down. He signed instead with Inter Miami, a young club in Major League Soccer, for a fraction of that headline number.
Estados Unidos, sino a nivel grupal, creo que el club hizo un cambio muy grande y creció de todos lados, ¿no? A nivel.
His base salary there is modest by his standards, reported at around $20 million in guaranteed compensation, rising in his later contract to roughly $28 million guaranteed, which still makes him the highest earner in the league. So why would the highest earner in the league take a number that small? Because the salary was never the deal. The deal was the structure underneath it. According to the disclosure made by Inter Miami's managing owner, Jorge Mas, to Bloomberg, Messi's total compensation actually ranges between $70 and $80 million a year. The majority of that is not salary at all. It is an equity component, valued by the club's owner at roughly $50 to $60 million a year, tied to an ownership stake in Inter Miami itself. Crucially, that stake vests upon his retirement. He is not simply being paid to play. He is being paid in a share of the business he is helping to build. Sit with that, because it is the entire thesis of this video. Messi negotiated the right to own part of the institution that employs him.
Bueno, creo que desde el principio, ¿no? Desde mi llegada el recibimiento fue algo impresionante.
Early reports at the time suggested the stake could be as large as a third of the club, though the exact size was disputed and never formally confirmed. What is confirmed by the owner himself is that the equity is real, that it is substantial, and that it is designed to keep working long after Messi stops playing. This is the difference between an endorsement and an equity participation. An endorsement pays you for your attention while you provide it. An equity stake pays you from the enterprise value of the business for as long as you hold it, whether or not you are still working. And here is the figure that makes the structure undeniable. According to the same disclosure, Inter Miami's valuation has climbed from around $585 million when Messi arrived to roughly $1.35 billion since, a move echoed in the franchise valuations tracked by outlets such as Sportico.
Good enough. Messi out to Suarez. Suarez back to Messi!
Messi did not just join the club, he multiplied the value of the thing he negotiated to own. This is the principle the ownership architecture framework is built on. Ownership compounds, income does not. Equity participation is more durable than fee-based compensation because it captures the growth of the whole enterprise and it keeps paying after the work ends. Chapter 4. The Snapshot and the Slope. Now we can answer the question in the title honestly, because the honest answer has 2 parts. If you measure wealth as a photograph taken today, Ronaldo is richer.
In Europe, and for me now is the new challenge, as you mentioned, in Asia. I'm glad for that.
Forbes and Bloomberg both place him ahead, somewhere between $1.2 and $1.4 billion, against Messi's billion to 1.1. The salary machine won the snapshot. There is no spin that changes that, and we are not in the business of spin. But a fortune is not a photograph. It is a slope, and the two slopes point in different directions. Ronaldo's wealth is a stock of past income, brilliantly compounded, now sitting in investments and a personal brand that still depends on him appearing.
Here we go. Is your name Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro?
Yes.
It's a good start.
When the playing stops, the largest single line of income stops with it. The brand continues, but the brand is a function of the man. Messi's wealth, by contrast, is being engineered as a position inside an appreciating asset that is designed to keep working without him. His equity in Inter Miami does not require him to take the field. It requires only that the franchise continues to rise in value, which it has done at a remarkable rate. Consider what that means in plain terms. According to the valuations cited around the club, Inter Miami's enterprise value rose by hundreds of millions of dollars in the seasons after Messi arrived. A meaningful ownership stake in that kind of appreciation can add tens of millions of dollars in paper value in a single year, without the owner kicking a ball. That is what an equity slope looks like. It is uncorrelated with whether the principal is still performing.
Sí, por suerte sí, terminé bien, cansado, igual que todo el equipo. Mucho calor, mucha humedad, lo mismo de siempre, pero...
It is, in the truest sense, ownership rather than labour. So who got richer? Today, Ronaldo. In 10 years, the honest answer is that it depends entirely on the multiple applied to a football franchise that one of them owns and the other does not. And that is the most important sentence in this entire breakdown. Chapter 5. The Structural Reveal. Here is the insight that reframes the whole comparison, and it is not the one the rivalry usually produces. Bloomberg made a quiet observation when it reported these fortunes. Both Messi and Ronaldo reached billionaire status largely through playing salaries, which is itself historically unusual. Earlier billionaire athletes, the Michael Jordans and the Roger Federers, built their fortunes mainly through endorsements and equity, because their salaries alone were never enough. Modern football salaries changed that. Two players got to $1 billion mostly on wages. That is the new economics of the sport. But within that shared story sits the real divergence, and this is the structural reveal. Ronaldo took the new economics to their maximum and stopped there.
For the money, because I think the money, it can help you to in many ways.
He extracted the largest salary in history and built a brand on top of it. Messi took the new economics and added the old discipline on top. He accepted a smaller salary and used his leverage at the precise moment it was at its peak to acquire ownership. The path to durable wealth runs through structures the principal controls. Ronaldo controls his brand, which is real and valuable. Messi controls his brand and negotiated to control a slice of the franchise around it. This is the part most people miss. The question was never who earns more, because Ronaldo clearly does. The question is what each man owns once the earning stops. Ronaldo will own the compounded results of the greatest income career in football history, which is an extraordinary thing to own. Messi is positioned to own a piece of a club, a media relationship.
Que nada, lo mejor que pasemos al turno de preguntas y nuevamente simplemente gracias a todo el mundo.
And a brand whose enterprise value he personally helped create. One is the return on labour, the other is the return on ownership. And the second has no ceiling, because there is no cap on what an equity stake can eventually become. Neither man made a foolish choice. Ronaldo's machine is the most valuable individual income engine sport has ever seen. But only one of them, at the final crossroads of his career, turned a contract into ownership. And ownership is the thing that keeps compounding long after the final whistle has blown. Chapter 6. The Broader Pattern. This is not an isolated case. It is the same principle we have traced across the entire Icon Capital series, in story after story, from completely different industries. We covered Ryan Reynolds, who took ownership positions in Aviation Gin and Mint Mobile, instead of simple endorsement fees.
I'm introducing Aviation American Gin Homeschool Edition. It's just like the classic delicious eat.
And turned modest stakes into a reported billion-dollar exit when those companies were acquired. We covered Dwayne Johnson, who built the Terramana tequila business and, by reported estimates, created an operating asset that came to rival or exceed the value of his entire film career, because he owned the business rather than renting his name to someone else's. We covered Tom Brady, whose post-career strategy has been about converting fame into equity stakes and brand ownership rather than appearance income. And we covered Beyoncé and Jay-Z, whose multi-billion-dollar architecture rests on owned masters, owned spirits, and owned platforms rather than salary. Each of these is the same underlying principle wearing a different costume. The ones who build wealth that outlasts the career are the ones who convert income into ownership while they still have the leverage to demand it. Reynolds did it with spirits and telecoms.
We won't waste millions running ads this Sunday like big wireless companies, but we will make an enormous logo and have me sit on it.
Johnson did it with tequila. Brady did it with brand equity. Messi did it with his football club. The names and the industries change. The architecture does not. Chapter 7. What comes next? If you find these breakdowns useful, the kind that ignore the noise and show you the actual contract structures underneath the headlines, Icon Capital exists to help you see the architecture clearly. We treat these fortunes as case studies in how power and money are really organised, not as gossip. If you want to go deeper into the actual mechanics, the equity participation models, the ownership structures, and the financial architectures that make these strategies work, that is what we are building Icon Capital toward. Subscribe to follow the next case studies and stay tuned for what comes next. And if you want the playbook in your own hands, we have put it in writing. There is a free cheat sheet linked in the description. How 10 celebrities built $1 billion empires. And it lays out the exact ownership structures behind the names we study on this channel. It comes with the Icon Capital newsletter, where we break down the business of power every week, the deals and the architecture that do not always fit inside a video. The link is below. It costs nothing, and it is the fastest way to start seeing these structures for yourself, in every contract, in every industry, long before the headlines catch up. Because here is what this rivalry finally revealed. For 20 years, we argued about which of them was the better player, and that question may never be settled. But the financial question already has been, and the answer is not a number. One of them was paid magnificently for the work. The other made sure that when the work ended, the ownership would still be his. In football, the greatest are measured in goals. In wealth, they are measured in what they own when the goals finally stop.